Well, welcome back to the Club Rico podcast. I'll be honest with you, it's not even really a deep dive that we have to do right now. Let's just be honest. We got robbed. We absolutely got robbed. The money that was sent to the Ukraine is gone. It's MIA. It's not coming back. And there's really not much we can do about it. They're telling us now that, oh yeah, the money's missing and he doesn't know where it's at. He doesn't know what happened to it. And actually, he's throwing the Americans under the bus. He's saying that the money that was sent to him, he didn't receive it, but he's also in a way implying that it went towards other things, unfortunately. So we don't, like I said, we don't have to do much of a deep dive. Don't forget, 10% was going to go to the big guy regardless. So once you do that math, I'll be surprised if he got the 100 billion or even, what does he said? He said 75. They got 75 billion out of 177. So that means what? 102 billion with a B is just missing from our coffers and we don't know where it went. I know where it went. It's not easy to figure out how this works or why they used the Ukraine in the first place. We don't got to go that far back in history. Welcome to Ukraine, the most corrupt nation in Europe. This is dated. What date is this article from? What is this? 2015. So this is a year after the Maidan coup and a year after the war started in the Donbass. See, people don't know this, but the Ukraine was divided. Kind of like how if the United States became divided and California was shooting rockets at Texas. And they're saying one part of the, yes, we're all one country, but it's like a civil war and we're separated. One part of the country wants to speak Spanish. The other part of the country wants to speak English. It's kind of like that. That's how it was in the Ukraine. And they had already been separated. There was already a war going on, but this was already known facts by everyone. The reason why the Ukraine will never be in NATO, won't even be in the EU, is because of the nations known for being corrupt. So let's see here. Ukraine's National Cancer Institute occupies 3 smoke gray 6-story blocks of the residential district of Kiev. When the Soviet workmen completed the facade, they built the date 1968 into it. Since then, the maintenance appearance have been erratic. Nonetheless, business in the institute has always been brisk and getting brisker. Half of Ukraine's men and a fifth of its women smoke. And they were just talking about basically how with Chernobyl, because that's also in the Ukraine, radiation, and then the 1980 increase among child tenfold, the mortality among children. Basically, they're just, it's a whole article explaining how money comes to the Ukraine and it disappears because it can be channeled to different places from one source. So the Ukraine so that's why they could never be in NATO, even if they wanted to. The reason they wanted this war in the Ukraine is because they could launder money back to themselves. Remember, there was no accounting, no oversight, no anything to monitor where this money is going, who it's going to, what it's purchasing. A lot of the money went back towards the military industrial complex. The reason it went to them is because, remember, the United States cleaned out all of its supplies in the region and sent everything to the Ukraine: tanks, ammunition, guns, missiles, HIMARS, expensive weapons, expensive missile deterrent equipment, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars. Each missile costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're just using it willy-nilly because they can justify replacing it. So remember, every time the Russians hit a storage depot where they were storing tanks and ammunition and everything, and it would just blow the whole thing up. Because remember, the Russians know where everything is. The Russians can hit anywhere in the Ukraine anytime it wants. They just haven't, because what Putin said is that the Ukrainians are our cousins, and eventually we're going to have to reunite with them. And I don't want there to be this terrible history between us where we're not going to be able to reunite, which I can completely understand that. So he's been taking it easy on the Ukrainians because, for one thing, it's not necessarily their fault that their leaders are sending them into battle. But remember, they're corrupt. So what that means is that you can buy the lives of young Ukrainian men for American money. And that's what they did. And in my opinion, and I don't know who agrees with this or not, but the Americans wanted to test the weapons capabilities of the Ukrainians. I mean, of the Russians. And from what I can tell, they wanted to see what the Russians could do, because there's never been an actual all-out major war where you can see what the Russians have, what kind of missiles they have, what kind of advanced weapon systems they have. We don't know. And I think they've been really testing out using the Ukraine as a testing ground to see if the Russians were going to bite or what kind of things they're capable of. The only things that we've seen is a brand new weapon system that looks like they're sending rods from God. And it's called the Orishnikov. And they used it one time. They were able to level 5 miles of factories in the Ukraine in under 20 seconds. That was the last time we've seen them demonstrate a brand new weapon system. But that's what the Americans wanted. That's what Europe wants. They wanted to see what Russia would do, but they didn't want them to test out their brand new weapons over Paris or over London, or God forbid, over New York City. So they're using the Ukraine as a testing field for all their new weapon systems. They want to see what they can do. But now Trump's back in office, and they're not going to be able to goad the Russians into showing their hand, pretty much. So that's pretty much over. But this is what Zelensky's saying. I can read you what he's saying, but this is his speech. He says, "Look, when I heard today from the United States of America, the Americans gave the Ukrainians hundreds of billions of dollars, 177 to be precise. What was that the figure sounds like, which was supposed to be voted for by Congress? Look, as the president of a warring country, I tell you, we've received just over 75 billion. He's throwing somebody under the bus. That's 100 billion of these 177 or 200 billion. Some people even say that we have never received. He's throwing them under the bus. He's basically saying that they're lying to the American people. He's saying Congress is lying. The Department of Defense, whoever's in charge, the Treasury Department, whoever said they sent the money, he's calling them a lie publicly in an interview, knowing that they are going to have to come back and talk to their constituents. The problem is he's an actor, so no one's really going to take him too seriously, but he is the leader that everyone propped him up to be, this Churchill type person. But he's just a crummy actor that used to play the piano with his penis on a show about what happens if an actor becomes a president. Now he's actually the president, and he's shaking in his boots because the war is over. To be honest with you, there was never a war to begin with. It's been over. Many men died, but this was never a fight that they had a chance of winning in the first place. The Federation was always going to win this. It just depended on when they were going to win it, and like they have always said, it will be over when the Federation says it's over. People will say, well, how long is this war going to last? As long as the Russian Federation wants it to. But there's no point. The Russians are not in a rush. This wasn't I'm shooting a movie on Netflix. Let me just run through the country like the Americans did in Iraq. And you got to deal with insurgency and death and all these things. And you got to occupy for 20, 30 years. Why do that? Well, you can just slowly and methodically move through the nation, capture the cities, bring them under your control, stabilize them, and then move forward. I mean, they're already building apartment complexes in the Donbass, in Zaporozhye, in Artemovsk, formerly Bakhmut. They're already building a place for people to live and restoring order. And what is Ukraine doing? They're still using these little bombs, these I forgot what kind of these cluster bombs to shoot at civilians and just hurt them and scare them. But it serves no actual purpose in the war. It's not going to get them anywhere. This war is already over. And this right here is a ghost. If you think this man is going to be alive through the end of this year, I wouldn't bet on it. I mean, I wouldn't see him making it too much longer. They're going to have to throw someone under the bus. Also, he made it a law in the Ukrainian constitution that no one in the Ukrainian government can even negotiate with the Russians. So there couldn't be no negotiated ceasefire anyway, as long as he's alive. There's no need for the Russians to wipe him out because he's the perfect person to blame. Also, the next person that comes in might be a little bit more difficult to deal with. At least they know him. At least they understand him. They know how he thinks. They know he's a clown and he's a joke. But I mean, think about it. They wiped away generations of men in this country for hundreds of billions of dollars. So if you think about how many, what's that, 1 million men divided by $100 billion, I mean, you can just see how much your life was worth. But now he's saying that half of that money they never received. And with 10% to the big guy, what are we looking at? 60 million, 50 million is unaccounted for. But we do know where it went. It went towards replacing, think about it, Greece, Poland, Romania, the UK, France, Germany, gave everything. Remember the Leopards, the Leopard tanks? What happened to those? What happened to the F-16s? What happened to them begging for all these wonder weapons that are going to turn the tide in the war? Whatever happened to those? Well, they got destroyed. Well, where do you think the money's going to come from to replace them? Well, you're looking at it. $100 billion that didn't go to the Ukraine. It wasn't supposed to. This money was to arm the Ukraine to fight the Russians on behalf of the West, so that they can test out the Russians' weapons capability. That money has to replenish all of the weapons that were destroyed in this, I guess, a game, this trial to see what the Russians could do, to see how hard they could punch. That's what it went to. So now, out of that 75 billion, which is a ton of money, this is not millions, this is billions with a B. What happened to that money? Well, Zelensky apparently bought the largest casino in Europe. Meanwhile, in France, the Ukrainian government representatives are on vacation, buying Bentleys and boats and splurging and spending tons of American dollars all over Europe. They sold the lives of those men. And now, a small few people in government, oligarchs, the wife of Zelensky, they're all just out on shopping sprees and living it up. But he doesn't know that eventually he's going to have to pay for the sins of all the Ukrainians, the oligarchs anyway. He's going to take the fall. All money is not good money. You're not going to be able to, you can't spend it all anyway. And in his situation, you're not going to be able to take it with you where you're going. And he's not going to prison. I don't know what's going to happen to his wife, but I'm sure they're not going to just let her go with tons of American money and just live out her life or move to Miami and think she's safe in the United States. Or, I mean, think about it. Those agents were not even safe in Dubai when Mossad went after them. So what do you think is going to happen to him when his security, which are probably holding him hostage as well, decide that it's over and they turn on him? The Azovs have been pretty much wiped, but the remaining of them, everyone's going to blame him and his wife. And any extended family he has, they're going to pay for that. But now with all the audits going on and everything's coming out, you can just see what they mean by Ukraine as being the most corrupt country in Europe. Viktor Orban has warned us. Everyone has warned us about the Ukrainians. but we needed them to launder this money back into the coffers of the world, the military industrial complex in the United States, but also the European industrial complex, because everyone got paid. If you played along with the game and you went along with it, everyone got something. Some got more than others. The United States is going to get the bulk of it. But at the end of the day, it's just corruption and another form of money laundering at its finest. And his head will be on a stick for it. So, yeah, it's not confusing where the money went. It's very simple. We didn't have to do much of a deep dive. You don't need a forensic team to come in here and go through the records. We knew where the money was going 2 years ago when we started sending it. Anybody who's in conservative media, anybody who pays attention and reads any of the articles, we knew what was going to happen. That's why there was no oversight. That's why there was no audits. That's why there was nothing put in place by the Biden administration. They wanted this money to be laundered. They wanted these crimes to go through. Remember, Hunter Biden has been on the board of Burisma for years. And we're not even talking about the mayor of Moscow and all these other people that were kicking back the Biden's money. No one's even talking about that yet. You give Trump, Doge, and the administration another 6 months, all that's going to be on the table. And there's no pardons for espionage or for, basically using our country and selling information for favors from, our enemies. Ukraine is not an ally. They're an enemy. And they've wasted a lot of our money, but in a way, it went back to the military-industrial complex in the United States, so no one's going to consider that as a waste, but in my opinion, they robbed us. When somebody's telling me they don't know where the money went, we sent it to you, but you don't know where it went. You said you sent it to me, but why are you just now saying you never received the money? He could have said that a year ago. Hey, I saw this on the news that you guys are sending money. I didn't get the check. He could have been said something, but he's waiting until it's over now. Trump's in office. Money? What the money? What do you mean the money? What the money? My money. Yeah, all right, you little thieving dwarf, piano penis playing dweeb. Crossdresser, also, same as Klaus Schwab, same as Harari, same as everybody at Davos in the World Economic Forum. All gay men now controlling the world and remaking it in their image. That's why your kids are gay, and that's why they're pushing everything to be gay and trans until Trump came in and stopped it. They're all a part of the same agenda, and now their agenda's up. And Harari said it, if Trump took office, then it would be the end of their global, whatever they were pushing, this technocratic gay revolution of pedophilia, and it's over now. But we're going to point out everything that's been happening, and we're never going to forget, because we cannot afford to ever end up back where we were in 8 years from now or 12 years from now. Some of us are going to have kids. We're going to still be in this country, and we're going to have to protect it going forward. We cannot go back to where we were these past 4 years. We've rejected that. We rejected everything. And with our new mandates, we're already getting the results that we need. So do me a favor, like and subscribe to the page. I'll be back on to make fun of Al Sharpton and the rest of the race hustling bliggities that were pretending that they were going to buy a bunch of stuff from Costco and didn't buy nothing because they're a bunch of entitled idiots who wanted everything for free. So we're going to be back to talk about that in a second. But like and subscribe, and then I'll be back shortly. Thank you. And here comes a word from our sponsor, cosigning.com. If you need an apartment, but you don't have a friend or a family member willing to co-sign for you, contact cosigning.com and they'll match you with a qualified co-signer today.
I've been needing to find a new apartment, which has not been easy with credit as bad as mine. Luckily, I found cosigning.com. They connected me with a cosigner who helped me get my dream apartment for me and my dog. I just paid a small fee and was able to move in fast. Get the cosigner you need for the apartment you want. Check out cosigning.com today.